Well, here we go. Welcome to the Profit Tool Belt podcast. It is just for builders, remodelers, GCs. Look, if you serve commercial or residential customers and you're interested in the business of the contracting business, then welcome. You're in the right place because you're at a place where you're already proud. You're doing a million, maybe 2 million bucks a year. You've got a crew that's working. Maybe you want to get to the next level. And you're standing there looking at the company thinking, you know what? I need some new answers to old problems. If that's going through your head, then you're ready because this show is all about getting to the next level by working smarter, not just harder. And so today's guest is Bob Hildebranski. He's a civil engineer. We're going to talk about going from plat to groundbreaking to site services all in one shot. You can get both Bob and I on LinkedIn. You should definitely join us there. And here, listen, this is why this episode is important. You might think, well, I don't need to talk to civil engineers at all. Actually, I'm going to stop you there. I want you to see the world through the eyes of a civil engineer. The more we understand the people in the trades around us, the better we can work with them when the time is right, or we need to question something they've done and go back and understand the logic behind it. I went and found Bob so you could get inside that beautiful mind. We need to know all of the trades, how they think, act, walk, talk. So we understand how a building comes together better and better every time. And he's a super interesting guy. Great storytelling style. I think you'll love. Look, there are simple systems to help you run this business. Those simple systems are also going to show you how to make the money that you deserve and have the time to live the life you want. Those simple systems give you that quiet confidence, to take this company wherever you want to go. So as we get into this episode, I want you to put your shoulders back, chin up a little bit, just by half an inch. Take a deep breath in and out. That feeling you have breathing in and out with your chin up, proud and strong, that is what I'm talking about. Okay. Now, that's a little bit of a mindset trick. It's a hack. It's a way to get inside our brain and rewire ourselves. And if I had to summarize this entire show, it's all about the mindset of growth and success for you as a contractor who just happens to run construction business. Mindset. Did I just say mindset? Well, speaking of mindset, I got a couple of dad jokes for you, and these ones will not disappoint because you know I tell dad jokes. I tell bad jokes, and dad jokes poorly delivered with poor timing. Today, as I said, will not disappoint. But I want to get you laughing. I want to get you to that point where you open up your mind to the possibilities of change. If you're doing things one way and it gets you to where you are today, that's fantastic. But if you find you're stuck at whatever level you're at, let's use that magic number of $1 million. If you find that you're stuck at $1 million year after year, and you're wondering why you can't get ahead, why you can't get to the next level, then here's the visual I want to give you. You can't get to the next level because you can't see over the hill. You can't see over the hill of that graph that's going up and to the right. Well, I want to show you that, but you need to have your mind open. You can't walk blindly up that hill. It's not going to work. So these jokes are there specifically to help you open up your mind, have a quick smile, maybe pass on some corny jokes to somebody else, and we can all laugh together all across the continent here, if not the world, right? So what's the difference? So it's, Bob's an engineer, right? So we're going to make an engineer theme thing. So what's the difference anyways between a mechanical and a civil engineer? Well, you see, mechanical engineers build weapons. And civil engineers, well, they build targets. All of those of you who are in reserves, Coast Guard, maybe military background, you probably already know that joke. What do you call a fear of overly engineered buildings? A complex. I can't even do that one with a straight face. Do you know how much I practiced that one to get it right? I think I got it right. A complex. That's a fear of overly engineered buildings. And listen, you're laughing, you're shaking your head, and you cannot wait to pull over the truck and go try that joke on somebody else. Let me know how it goes. Because you're an optimist. And you know what an optimist says? The optimist says the glass is half full. A pessimist says, well, that glass is half empty. There, I was just imitating the voice of your mother-in-law. Pessimists will say the glass is half empty, but an engineer, he'll stop for a second. He'll say, well, that glass has a safety factor of 2.0. So there's this scaffolder. He accidentally cuts off his ear. He yells down to another worker, hey, look for my ear. I just cut it off. A bit later, the worker calls up and says, is this your ear? Scaffolder looks down and says, no. Mine has a pencil behind it. All right. And here's one more engineering joke for you. What do you call the child of a civil engineer? A trust fund baby. Boom. All right, listen. Let's get back to the seriousness here. I host this podcast, folks, because one day I would be proud to stand beside you and show you the path to growing this business to the next level you want to get it to. That I want to be your business coach. It's out on the table. I can't be any more blunt than that. I have a team of business coaches that I have personally hand selected. As a matter of fact, over the upcoming few episodes, you're going to meet three. Our team is growing fast. We have three business coaches joining the team. We've already got Lee Miller. We've got Jake, Omzi, and Ryan coming on board as well. Anyways, these coaches have been personally hand selected. They're already excellent business people in their own right. They're already running their own contracting businesses. You're not going to be talking to somebody who, I read a book and so now I'm a business coach. We don't do that here. I'm happy to have a very, very fine mesh on the filter and accept very few people who get to stand beside us and work with us as we grow the business. So anyways, if you're ever interested, love to talk to you. That being said, I'm going to get to business coach mode right now. I have two simple action items for you. Number one, I'm going to challenge you. In this episode, you're going to hear something, learn something, or realize something. Something's going to pop in your mind. Whatever it is, I want you to take action. Bob's going to say something, and you'll go, oh, yes. We'll take action on that in the next 24 hours and then manage it, measure it. How did that impact your life or your business? And then number two is think on this idea. Are you happy being a contractor who feels like 1 or 2 million a year is your, the place you can't get out of? Or are you ready to learn the steps to get you to the next level? By the end of today's episode, you, my friend, will know the answer. So let's get to it. Oh, Mr. Bob Hildebranski, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Very good. Very good. I'm excited to be here with you. You and I have had very brief conversations, but such easy conversations.
I said it's like two guys that just met in a restaurant and said, "Hey, you're in construction." Oh yeah, so am I. All of a sudden, you just go.
I'm that guy. Well, but you're on a different side of it than we normally talk to.
True.
Very different. Now people are curious, like, well, what side is different than our side?
Mm-hmm.
You're the early side.
Suspense.
That's what we're doing. Why don't we break this suspense and tell everyone? So I'll do that. I'll restate the title. You're here because you're a civil engineer, correct?
Yes, sir.
And our topic today is how to go from plat to groundbreaking to site services. And do you know why I went to find you?
I'd love to know, Dom. Fill me in.
Because this show's about the business of business. And I'll bet you some of us could be making decisions early in the process that would give us a better, higher quality product, but also help us save money or maximize the use of that real estate, which just keeps going up in price. That's why.
Cool. Well, we're here to try to answer some of those questions.
At all. You're not rattled at all.
Nope, not at all.
Hey, do you mind if I ask you a kind of an abrupt question?
Of course.
Bob Hildebranski, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be speaking to all these forward-facing contractors all over the world?
Very cool. Dom, first of all, thanks for having me. I mean, this is a cool forum. Obviously, just being able to talk to not only you and I, but just communicate with other people that do what we do. We build things. I mean, it's awesome. So I live outside of Chicago. Husband first, dad first.
Yeah,
so
good.
Coming up on 30 years with my wife. We've got two 20-somethings, so they're both out of the house. So the nest is empty. So we've got a little extra time to do.
Quiet. How quiet is it?
It's quiet. That's right. It's quiet. Civil engineer. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit about surveying. 35 years. So I'm educated and licensed. We can talk a little bit about licensing too and the significance of that. But I have been in the infrastructure world since I started, and there has not been a day that I've not had work. I mean, this industry right now, probably everybody that's on with us knows there's just so much going on. And really the site work, the infrastructure side, being outside of Chicago, we're in a major metropolitan area. There is just so much going on. So it's been a great career for me. Bought a house, raised a family. We're continuing to do that. So there's always stuff to do. Yeah, I mean it's been a great career. So that's why I just say hopefully the majority of my work has been on the build the road and bridge side of infrastructure. But there's so much, so much going on in subdivisions, we took plats and land development and all
Well,
that stuff all
that's
kind of folds together.
yeah,
So
that's what we're going to get to in a second. But first, I was looking at your website. You do a lot. You're a busy guy. Purple belt in jujitsu. So, you know, I'm going to be cautious if I shake your hand. You're active in the local community. You're a teacher as well.
I am, yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I
and
don't
I
want to give it all away. Tell us a little bit more about yourself so we get into this.
Sure. No, and those I'm not a type A. Believe me, I'm not a type A personality. I really believe in giving back. What we do now at the age that I'm at here, we're starting to sunset a career now, starting to be able to look ahead. And I really like to think it's a toolbox. Everything that we've earned, the education, the things that we've experienced in our lives, we just build this toolbox. So now what can I do to give it away? I mean, what's in there is
Yeah.
what's in there. I teach at our community college construction surveying class, which is great to interact with the next generation, the people that are replacing me. So it is, and I think there's a website and a podcast that I try, but it's about contribution. I really think that we owe it to this next generation. How many people helped us to get to where we're
Right.
at, to give us their tools to allow us to be better, and now it's my turn to pay that forward. So
Well,
it's
you're doing that here on the show. You and I are approximately the same age, if not the same age. Would you graduate in 86?
high school?
Yeah.
84 out of high school. Yeah.
84. Okay. So I graduated 86. Um, things like podcasts and like easy to access YouTube videos, that didn't exist. We had to go to conferences. We had to fly to Chicago,
Yeah.
or you had to fly to Seattle or New York to get. And now you just listen to a podcast and I can get Bob Hildebranski's wisdom. So paying it forward and opening the toolbox, that's what we're doing. I'm so glad you're doing it. But okay, so we're about the same age. You're still doing jujitsu?
Still doing jujitsu. I started in 2016, so I was kind of a late bloomer, but that's 8 years in, and I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
mean, you said you've got some martial artists in you too. There's just something about leaving it all out on the mat and working. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
the oldest guy in our dojo, but there's a few that are of my age, and it's just great. I mean, it's just a great
Yeah.
community, great workout. I mean, great for mental fitness. There's so many things about it,
Yeah. I like the discipline of the dojo.
Yeah.
The discipline of the dojo is like you walk in and there's respect, everybody's equals. And then you're going to figure out you're not actually that equal because when your face is in the mat and it smells like everybody's feet, you start to realize, oh, maybe I'm.
So true. But we keep going back, right? You just
We
got to
do
show
keep
up. You
going
just
back.
got to
Yeah.
show up.
Lee Miller is one of the coaches on our team. He's into jujitsu as well. Maybe you'll have a chance to meet him one day.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into this. Like, so you know who you're talking to here. We're talking to builders. We're talking to guys that are doing home renovations, all different trades. And the one thing that we don't often think about is how what we're building is on the land. And that's really your specialty. So how do we go inside your mind to understand how you come at a piece of land and identify how we can make the highest and best use of it? And then, these guys know how to take it from there. Whether they're developing their own land or subdividing an orchard that got left to them from their family, how do we go from plat to groundbreaking to site services?
Awesome. Yeah, no, and I want to say too, Dom, because I just for the benefit of the audience, couple disclaimers, just because I'm a professional.
Of
So,
course, yeah,
I was going to say, podcasts are educational. So certainly, everybody's going to be at a different point, different location, somewhere wherever you're at. So it's always just using that local knowledge that you have, the local pros. So here, Dom and I are just talking. We're kicking the tires on issues. So you always
yeah,
want to refer to somebody like that. And certainly, just so everybody knows, hey, this is my opinions. The websites are opinions. Yeah, I work for a company and all that stuff. So this is whatever we're talking about here. This is for our group here. So
nicely done. You're
just so
not
everybody's
responsible for anything, and you're not even an authority.
that.
That's it.
Thank you, Dom.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. That's right. No, and maybe starting slow, starting slow. When we talk about earth, we talk about dirt, we talk about a subdivision. I think we're all exposed to streets and subdivisions and roads and the things that I do. Civil engineers, for a little background, we get everything we get everything to the building. It's the roads, it's the utilities. That's our responsibility. Is anything that's outside of the building line
Right.
kind of falls under our purview, and that's what we do. So I would like to say, if you needed to get up to get yourself ready and go to work, you probably touched something that our industry worked on, and that's really what we end up doing. And I think it's really neat because the profession, our skill set, you get to touch it, you get to see it, you get to kick it, you get to design it, you get to
Mhm.
interact with people. It's not electrical engineering where you can't see a spark and you
All the
don't know how
electrical
much.
engineers are going to be
Yep. I don't like electrical at all because I can't see it. I don't know it. But I think that's the interesting part of this line of work that I'm in. It's concrete, it's asphalt, it's dirt, and it's the people that like that stuff too. I mean, I think that's the cool part is when you're a part of this industry, everybody's in it. Everybody's in the game. How much you can learn from just being in the environment, from the subcontractors, from the people that you deal with every day. Everybody's got something that they can teach somebody else. And just,
yeah.
watching an operator on a dozer run a
I was
blade.
just going to say, how many times have I gone by an operator on like a backhoe or something? I'm like, I wish I could do that. I'd do that. You
Damn, I'm
know?
telling you. And really, when you watch an operator that can run a $750,000 machine just like it's his hands,
Right.
it is so much fun. It's so much fun to watch and be around. And I'll tell you, I'm the first guy that will always just ask questions. I'm just asking and curious. Why did you position the machine here? Did we think it's just so fascinating to be able to feed from the people that you work with. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I really do. I love what I do. I
Yeah.
really enjoy what I do. So I mean, that's the civil. That's what civils do. I mean, most of the people that you said we're talking to are building people. I always define it by that 5 foot building. There's a magic line that's 5 foot around a building. I don't go in there. I don't know
Right. But you
HVAC. I
bring us
don't know.
services. You bring us those
I will
services. And
get it.
so
Yes.
I'd love for you to tell us because we need to get inside your head because normally we wouldn't. That's why you're
Mhm.
here, is because normally we wouldn't talk to you. We just show up and we've got a raw piece of land, but there's some survey stakes.
Yep.
What's the logic behind that? Who decided that those are the survey stakes? And
Yeah.
why are the services being delivered on this side, not that side? And why does maybe you don't know why a pump has to go over there and not here? When we get there and we're like, this is ridiculous, but we don't understand the logic that you've brought to bear that has to do with maybe more than just our lot.
Sure. And I mean, I don't haven't worked too much in the land development space, but obviously efficiencies and using the land to its maximum advantage to be able to build as much as you can in an efficient space is part of that. So how do the utilities get there? How are water mains sized? How
Yeah.
is the gas company bringing gas services to those different places? So it all kind of it folds together. And I think that's kind of what's unique about this side of the industry is that someone has to sit down and map that out. Someone has to work with a land developer to be able to plan that out. Maybe the people that we're talking to today may have, like you said, inherited a plot or have just decided, you know what, there's a parcel in a subdivision that we've been framing out here on the last 3 houses. Maybe I'll give this a shot. It's just understanding that's a process. There's a lot of thought and planning and detail that goes to getting to that point. Site civils deal with the infrastructure, the roads and where everything is going to lay out. But there's also
Mhm.
this other piece, and that's the surveyor. We talk about surveyors, and not everyone knows what a surveyor is, but
Yeah.
a land surveyor also a professional, and they deal with the land, titling the land, defining where something is. We talk about a plat, a survey. What is
Right.
a plat, a survey? Plat is a document that basically describes in language and in graphics what you own, what that plot is. So a four corners on around a property lot, there's four iron pins or four marks, and that's what defines your property. A land surveyor will write up a very, very long paragraph that describes that piece of property that it's yours or it's the owner's property, and that's how it's
Yeah.
defined. It's recorded, it's a legal document, and it's basically that's what sets the course for what that land is.
When you look at what happens after you do your piece, where do you see the things that make you shake your head, or maybe you read something in the paper or something that's happening? Like, what's the disaster that follows after that could have been avoided if only dot dot dot?
I think of the fails when the fails happen, communication and hiring the right people is
Mm.
So critically important.
It's crazy that you say that. Do you know how often communication comes up
Mhm.
in this podcast with the guests that I bring in?
It's
And yet at the same time, as guys, I'm just going to call it, sometimes we're not great communicators.
yeah.
And yet
And
communication is so important at all levels, residential, commercial, civil, institutional, it doesn't matter. So, sorry to cut you off because I'm an over communicator, but tell me more about this communication you speak of.
of course, and I think a lot of this in this field too just goes to having local people who know the local communities, who know the local tendencies, who know the
Mm,
requirements that are in that area. It, like you said, it would be easy for us to just decide and say, well, we're going to figure this out on the fly, and we'll having an engineer that's by your side, that's part of your team, having a land surveyor that's part of your team, being able to network within the community that you're in, finding out,
mm,
hey, who are the surveyors that work in this local locale, so that they understand what the municipality is working out, as opposed to just dropping in and trying to figure this all out by yourself, or just hiring somebody that maybe that might not be familiar with the municipality or the agency. You want to have the right people with that knowledge, because they've already paid that forward. They've already gone through maybe some of the
right.
trials and tribulations, and have had a mistake here or there that has tripped them up for a week, or maybe they had to have a submittal return because they were missing some information. That local knowledge, that's what you want to gain. That benefit of having that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think about the time that you go into the city for permits. This is on topic, but on theme, but a different topic. You go into the city to ask about permits, and you're talking to a new person behind the counter, and they're very friendly and helpful, and they want to help you, but you realize they haven't been there long enough to know who to ask for what. And when you talk to somebody who's maybe a little more crotchety, but they know who to ask for what and how to ask that person and when to ask that person and what to say and what not to say, those are the things you only learn after doing it for a while. So I would imagine that, there's a lot of value in having an old surveyor who says, there's site conditions here you haven't thought about,
Yep.
bedrock or some whatever you guys are dealing comes up here and it's never talked about, but you're going to hit it. And I kind of made that up, but those are the kind of things that happen when you're listening and asking the right questions.
Yeah, that local knowledge, and we find it even in our industry too. Gaining that local knowledge, you can't read it in a book. You don't find it in a manual. It's just from being out and kicking dirt and being exposed to what's going on in the industry in your area. Those are the people that you kind of want to. Those are the
Yeah.
people you want to find.
If I was going to take a chunk of land, let's say it's a sloping property, a hilly property, there's a river at the bottom or a creek at the bottom. What are the kind of things I have to take into account as a builder, or whether I'm doing a new building or maybe an add-on that is going to come up and be a conversation point that I'm going to have to explain later.
You said a mouthful in one word, and that's soils. I There's such an appreciation for trying to determine, or needing to determine, what's below what you can see.
Mm,
And that's not only just in the type of earth that you're dealing with, but just even where the utilities are at. It is the things that you can't see. Being able to develop a three-dimensional mindset is,
yeah.
is part of being a good construction professional, because you do have to be able to picture that. Like I said, buildings and structural foundations and HVACs and systems in that, I can't claim a whole lot of knowledge, but I could certainly tell you that a basement going in somewhere, you hope that your structural engineer wants to just have a soils company come out, spend a few $100s, and take a soil boring, check, see what's down there, because so much of what can happen depends on that. A chunk of land might look really pristine and really good, but until you kind of know what's underneath and what you have to deal with, there's the unknowns. Trying to minimize the risk means minimizing the unknowns, and you raised a great point, Dom. Soils is certainly one of those.
Yeah, you got to get back to it feels like, putting together a property, again, it could just be an addition. It doesn't have to be a new build, but having those conversations early and often. How do you, if I can ask this, how do you like to be communicated with? And what have you seen gone wrong when communication's not great?
I'll tell you what, we're the same age, so we can appreciate coming up in a world where it's an answering machine and a telephone, and that's how you communicated. I have Email is just so difficult for me, and not because it's a necessary part of our business line, because it's a way to document,
Right.
but there is this proclivity in this day and age to be so dependent on electronic systems now that we lose the ability to communicate. We lose the ability to stand on site and actually talk to the subcontractor and look at something effectively and have a discussion about it. We get so mired in having to sit and type, and
Yeah.
on our end of the line, Dom, there's now just um, construction management systems that are there for RFIs and submittals and shop drawings. And I understand it's part of a process. It does streamline things, but I think getting away from that and picking up the phone and saying, "Can you meet me out on site Thursday at 10 o'clock? Can we go over and look at the back lot? Can we
Yeah.
take a look at where the entrance utilities? I noticed this. Let's go take a look at it and have a conversation." That human that human aspect. You can kind of see it behind me, but there's lots of books on the library shelf, and there's a guy named Cal Newport.
Oh, of
He
course.
is just a fascinating read in terms of what it is and what we do and how we communicate. And I really think trying to continue to maintain that we need to talk. We need to talk. So
Yeah.
that's how I like to manage. You're always going to follow up with an email and a submittal and a shop drawing, and that's paper still part of our process. But yeah, it's a big one for me.
Yeah. One of the contractors that I've worked with for many years, he has a frustration with one of his project managers is that the project manager is younger than the owner, of course, and the project manager defaults to emails. It's always emails. And he's like, pick up the phone. That was a phone call, or this could be done through a phone call. And then we've had on here another project manager expert, Kyle Nitchin. I don't know if you've ever spoken to him, but he's the same thing. He's like, it's a tool, but it's only one of the tools. You know,
Correct.
how are we using all of the tools at our disposal,
Yep. I don't
especially
know
when you need
about
to get
you.
something done.
My daily, I try to do it as best as I can. 7 o'clock, noon, end of the day. Email turns on, run through it, see what you have, get it out, get back to work. I think there's too much of an opportunity to sit and just watch this ping pong ball come in and out and in and out, and all you're doing is just sitting. And then by the end of the day, you kind of think, what did I get done? You know?
Yeah, you feel like you've been busy all day, but all you're doing is returning emails.
Yeah.
So this might explain things for a lot of people, but I view emails, and I've done this for many years, but I view emails as 15-minute work orders. And I don't like work orders. Right? I mean, because I'm going forward, and a long email or an email with a bad title that doesn't line up with the topic or rambles, you're killing me. And many times I've sent it back and like turn this into 3 emails and send it back with one question each because you're just not you're not being effective anymore. It's too
It takes
much.
time. Yeah, it takes time, and it takes away from being able to use the knowledge that you have to solve problems, and that's it. It's communicating. The email communicates the problem solution, hopefully, or you can gather something out. But yeah, I'd much rather talk to somebody for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know that one of the challenges, and you might have seen this as a professional as well, and I wonder if this comes up in the course that you teach, is that email and text messaging are horrible ways to show emotion.
Mhm.
So I could say the same thing in a sentence of an email, and it can, if I said it live, it would sound friendly or professional. But if it comes across as an email, it's cold and demeaning. And you get two very different responses from people with a cold and demeaning email or a friendly and upbeat question. And it's the same question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's interesting being in the classroom as an instructor. And it's a junior college, so that's the class that I teach. And now
Sure.
seeing the generation and the tools that they use. I mean, I could never think of going into a classroom and thinking I'm going to use my phone to be able to do survey problems that we're working on as a unit in the class. But it's it's how the generation that's coming up now works. They're so savvy in their use of
Tech.
electronics because they've come up in this environment blending. And I think that's what's kind of unique about surveying is that it is still, I got paper here in front of me, but I'm still paper and pencil. It's still a paper and pencil type a profession. So it's
Mm,
neat. It's really neat to be able to work with them to figure out a field book sketch and what you're going to enter in terms of drawing a plat or what did you survey? What is the information that you need? You're still recording it using a pencil and paper. So it's fun. And from that aspect, it's fun to be able to try to teach and guide to understand, look, there's an electronic system that you're all going to be able to use this. There's GPS, there's drones, there's all these neat tools, but You still need to be able to solve a problem. And solving a problem requires using this and a calculator and a pencil and sitting down and
Yeah.
doing work. So
So let's do some problem solving. I imagine a plat is the least changeable thing of all. That's a property description. But what about the property laid out? I look at it and I'm like, is there a better way? Is there a different way? Where's the opportunity for a builder or a renovator, doing additions to come at this and come back to you guys or come back to maybe the surveyor and say, can we do this different? Or is that it is down, the book has been written, the
yeah,
classes are closed?
I think in terms of how you site a property, that's the front end. Those are the conversation that you would want to have with your site engineer, with your surveyor, with even the local municipality that's there. Do you have the ability to maybe modify the way that you might see is there a need, and then what's involved with having that occur? And that is kind of the divide, or a surveyor, when you bring a surveyor on your team,
Yeah.
they are there to chart that property. That is what they do. The next piece of that, if finally you get to the point where this is where you want to site the building or site your foundation, does it meet code? Does it meet setbacks? Does it meet easement requirements? Is it going to be in the right place? So, those are all paper. These are all paper assignments on the design side before you get out and put a shovel in there. And it takes time. I think in terms of thinking through the process, you
Yeah.
have to build that time in because it will take time to have the people that you're hiring work and get it to where you need it to go. It doesn't happen overnight.
So we're not all living in a world of rectangles and squares. It's you've got an opportunity to go back during the design process and have questions before you put a single, I want to say nail in the ground, but that's not the right thing. Before you lay out the foundation, you've got an opportunity to go back there and fix it then before you have something later that you're not happy with or doesn't maximize property value or doesn't work in the neighborhood or however you're doing it.
Yeah, and so much of that, just like back to how we started this conversation, people on your team that you're bringing on that can open those conversations and chart that course for you early. I mean,
Yeah.
really, if these are part of your soft costs of your job, right? You're paying these individuals to assist you and guide you and provide recommendations and that's why you hire them. So you
Yeah.
turn to those people. And I think too, I stress it with my students. It's learning how to communicate with them, knowing the right questions to ask them. It's a process. If you've never built a building before, there's going to be a lot of new things you're going to learn, a lot of new vernacular, a lot of new
It sounds
processes.
like money to me. Everything you just said there. If I've never done this before, it sounds like I'm going to learn by paying for it. Yeah. Have you ever heard the saying that whether you get your MBA or not, you're going to pay for it?
Yep,
Right.
tuition payments.
Yeah,
That's right.
tuition payment. Yeah.
Tuition payments, you might be giving to professionals or a school, but either way, you're going to pay something to learn
You're
something,
going to
right?
pay some. What do you wish we all knew that we get wrong? We being the others, like you guys, when you have your conferences and you're talking in the elevator, you're like, these guys don't get it. What's that thing?
Time, time, giving people time. And I really think that is, especially in my line of work,
Mm,
um, we get to the point where you want as a professional to make a decision. You want to make a good decision. You
right.
want to be in the position to be able to make the decision quickly, let's say, because what does that do? Shows we know our business, we know what we're doing, we have the answers in that, but it really takes professionals time to sit and let things marinate and look at different angles and talk to people. So the office environments that I so much love working in are those where the cubicle walls are down and people are talking to each other, or you hear a problem statement over a cubicle wall. Hey, what
Right.
I heard about this, what was going on over there? Having the time to be able to sit and think as for people that are in the knowledge game that I am in, you need that time because if you try to do something hasty and you try to push something along, somewhere in there's going to be a thread that's gonna come
It's going to
undone.
unwind at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
So are
and I
you
really
saying,
go ahead, Dom.
no, I was going to say, are you saying that sometimes builders or developers come back to you and they're pushing you where you just need the time? So what's reasonable? I mean, it's different. You could say, well, Dom, how long is a piece of string? Because it depends, right? It's the
Right.
worst question in the world, and I know it is, but how do I get that expectation? Because experience would tell me that sometimes I'll do one property and it takes this much time, and the next time I do it, and it's 2 extra months,
Yeah.
and you can't plan around that. But I'm still carrying the cost of that mortgage, maybe the materials, maybe the other professionals waiting.
I think before you go through the process of actually charting that course and setting your schedule up and putting dates and times together, it's really talking to those people to just say, hey, look, this is the area of land that I'm looking at developing. How far along in the process are we? What do you think this is going to take? Is
Mhm.
this utility services are already out in the front of the street, and these are just connections that we're going to go to the village or the town and permit for those? Or are you starting from scratch? I mean, is this just a raw chunk of land where you are really thinking about stormwater detention and you're thinking about bigger, higher things that might take more time for your
Mm,
engineering team to deal with? It's really
right.
building that in, asking the questions early. So there's no Dom. I can't give you a one size fits
I
all answer
know
on that.
it's the worst answer. And I hate it when I give the answer, it depends, because sometimes it truly depends. People are like, Dom, what does it take to get my business from here to there? I'm like, it depends. It's not always the same,
Yeah.
right? There's always change. We always need to change something or do something a little bit better or do something differently, but the order depends. It just
And
depends. And I don't know how else to say it. It just depends.
I think once your paperwork is in, I think that's when you can start charting your course a little tighter. Once you know that the municipality has said, "Yep, you're good to go." Once your foundation permit has made it, let's say through the municipality and they've said, "Yeah, you're good to dig." I think that becomes the next chunk of time,
Mhm.
and that time is giving now the field people time because one of the hardest things being a surveyor or person that stakes out, maybe we talk about stakeout,
Right.
it is having time to get everything ready to come to your site to be able to lay the points out. Laying survey points out is pretty easy. It's fun. It's fun
Mhm.
work. I mean, so much of what I do on my side of the industry is calculators and computers and spreadsheets and all that. To
Right.
actually get some equipment out and set up on a point and pound some hubs and actually walk away from a site and seeing what you actually produced. I mean, if you're in the trades, you get to do that for a living. We don't always get to do that, but the survey crew, but giving your people time to be able to get that ready. You
Mhm.
just can't call your surveyor and say, "Hey, it's Friday at 2 o'clock. I want a foundation guy's coming on Monday. He's going to be here at 9 with the machine. I need you to have the points laid out by then." I'm going to give you that slanted kind of look if you call me with that and say, I'm going to need a couple of days to make sure that I've got everything right because you only get one chance to lay something out.
Right.
That's one of the drawbacks. It's when you get one shot. That's it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, there's somebody out there nodding their head going, I wish I'd known this before. So that's good. You host a podcast as well. What's the name of that?
I do. That's the construction engineering show. My toolbox in verbal form, just being able to sit and talk about issues like this, and it's really same thing. Paying it forward, just trying to dump out and as much knowledge as we can gain to give to people, and that's really what it is. Like we said, we don't know. I think we get to this point, you forget what you know. But if you sometimes the most simple thing that
Yeah.
you might share with somebody is something that maybe they just hadn't heard before, and if it sparks something, then I've done my job.
Yeah. Yeah. We do tend to overlook that. Uh, so if somebody wants to find you in this big wide world, I mean, we could probably figure out how to spell Hildebranski. It's long, but it's one of those names where you can just go through it slowly and you'll type it right.
Sound it out. I'm sure you'll put something in the show notes. So
Oh, there'll
just
be something in the show notes, but
you can Google that. You can Google that. There's a website. I have a website, hildebranski.com. That is the location where my toolbox is at. So
yeah,
anything that's in there, people are welcome to grab out of it. It's just me brain dumping and sharing stuff that I have. And LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn is the only social channel that I'm on, but I'm always willing to add to the network and communicate with
yeah.
people. It's fun.
I'm surprised how many of us in the trades are not on LinkedIn. And the
Is
reason that
that
it
right?
surprises me is because one of the things that people say when they get on the phone with me is, "Hey, I'd like to start to move up market." Not necessarily, they don't necessarily always want to work on luxury homes, but they want to work with people who can afford the products or services that we sell, right? And to me, it seems like a natural. It's a hand in a glove. The people who are on LinkedIn are professionals. Professionals have disposable income and no tools. They don't
Hmm.
own a ladder. Their toolkit is from Walmart. They don't know how to use it. We are the solution for their problem. And if they're on LinkedIn, they're going to check me on LinkedIn. And so, I hear a lot of tradespeople like, "No, I don't use LinkedIn. I'm not looking for a job." Like, no, that's not what that tool's for. That's
That's
where you
true.
put your professional portfolio. So
Yeah.
I could see you and connect with you. And look, there's a lot of bad stuff on LinkedIn, like every other channel, people connecting with you, trying to, you know, convince you that they're a prince in some faraway land. That stuff exists everywhere. But there are professional connections with people like yourself. And I know I look it up every time I'm searching for somebody. I looked you up. We're connected now. It's just it's part of what you have to do when you're really a professional and you're moving up market.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've had folks on the podcast that deal in the marketing sphere and that. I just like it because it keeps a pulse. I mean, it kind of keeps a pulse on what's going on. I
Hmm.
like to know who's where everyone's at. Company changes and all that stuff, but just keeping in touch with people. But it really is. I just to be able to reach out to somebody, and I've done through the podcast and the website to just have people will say, "Hey, heard the show. It was really helpful. Hey, I found this
Oh,
on your
good.
website, this spreadsheet that you had in there that was really helpful." I mean that's why you and I do what we do, right? You
Oh,
just
this crew
that's
likes
how you want to help.
spreadsheets. What kind of spreadsheets do you have? What are the resident engineers toolbox?
There
What's
you
in
go.
there?
It's like I said, just different stuff that's in there. The ones that grab a hit once in a while. Engineers have to maintain continuing education, so we
Oh,
have to do 30 hours of professional development every year. Built a little spreadsheet with some macros that helps people track the
yeah.
what you, classes you
Construction
took. So
documentation. Tell me more about drone resources. Let's end on that one here. What are the drone resources?
oh, you're gonna go down. It was Santa's sleigh. I'm telling you, this whole thing with drones, Dom, it is just taken. Sorry, bad pun. All right, it's your show, so
Yeah.
I can say it's taken off because I heard your dad
I
jokes
thought the
before.
Santa one, yeah, my dad jokes are pretty bad. I thought the Santa one was a joke as well. But yeah, no, it has more than we
They are
know.
getting they are getting so powerful in terms of the adaptability that can be used for
Mm,
site development, for land development. They're going beyond just taking nice marketing shots of the house that you want to put on Zillow. It is now to where you're collecting data and data in terms of survey data, in terms of taking a drone and flying it over a parcel of land to where it can give you a three-dimensional surface model of that piece of land off of flying a drone. And when you think of how long it would take me and a partner, let's say, to take a survey piece of equipment and go out, even if I
right.
had a GPS unit to go out and survey a piece of land, to now use a scanner, you basically have the ability to scan land. It's the next place. So I've been trying to up my game, but I already feel like I'm falling behind because the technology is taking
Oh
off. So
gosh. Yeah. I know there's lots of BIM with drones where they'll go and take pictures of exteriors of a building, whether it's residential or commercial, whatever, so that whatever they need to do for insurance purposes, they can recreate that building later in the future and understand the insurance implications or the whatever you've got to do to re on that building. You want to know what the situation is to do your estimate properly, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's fascinating. It really is.
Yeah. And a little scary.
It is. I have my pilot's license, so I can
Oh,
put
do
one
you
up in
really?
the air.
What else do you have?
With
Can you
that,
juggle
yeah. What else
cats
do
and
I have?
chainsaws at the same time?
That's plenty, right, Dom? That's more
Yeah.
than enough for one individual
Yeah,
for
yeah,
right.
yeah. All right, Bob. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. So again, if people want to reach you, what's the name of the website?
Yeah, Hildebranski.com. It's my last name. Just Google the last name. A couple things will pop up and reach out. I'm always here. Any type I can help somebody out. Just reach out.
Yeah. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Dom.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Okay.
Well, well, well. What did you learn from Mr. Hildebranski? And what can you put in place? Think about the things that he talked about today and how you can use them the next time you approach a job site or a project, or maybe you need to go to the city planning department on your own. Understanding the inner workings of the mind of a civil engineer is going to help make you a better business person. Understanding everything that goes into this looking simple from the outside, but has a lot of moving parts business that we're in, that constant learning is going to filter through to all the rest of the people in your company. Heck, it's going to filter through to your kids if they ever want to take over this business one day. I have a friend here in town, and his family's been in this town for three, because his son hangs out with my son. And I was wondering why they always go to the city planning meetings. They're boring, but he goes there because he's trying to figure out how zoning is going to impact all of the properties he owns in our town. It's incredible. And then he owns different retail stores, he owns pubs, he's got a trucking company. Like he's got a lot of different businesses, and they're at that point in their growth where, yeah, they go to city planning meetings, even though they're boring, because they want to understand the implications of decisions that are coming. Clearly, they've been going to these meetings for years because they then make investment decisions based on what city zoning and bylaws are going to change. And that's how they get ahead, not little bits at a time, leaps at a time. And I'm seeing it happen in the second generation. And of course, that's being shown to his son, who's a friend of my son, right? So, what are you doing in your business to show everybody else around you that you're continually educating yourself, you're moving yourself forward, getting in the side of inside the mind, sorry, of a civil engineer, something you normally wouldn't get to do. And we did that today. So, thanks, Bob, for joining us. Hey, got a really nice text message today from one of our one-on-one coaching clients. You know, it might sound like we're a big team. We're small. We're small, but we're mighty. Coach Lee Miller has a number of clients. I've got a number of clients. Actually, interestingly, I have an opening. I never have an opening. So if anybody's interested in one-on-one coaching with Dom, make sure you send me a text. I'll tell you very bluntly, I'll only be able to take people whose companies are over 3 million in sales, where one or both of the owners are fully invested in growing the business. We have other programs for other people, but for me, that's the kind of businesses that I'll be working with continually going forward. So if you are that company owner and you just want to talk about it, shoot me a text. Well, I might as well say it here. Just say just send me a text. Just say coaching with Dom question or something like that to 315-903-7853. Again, minimum sales revenue is $3 million. And you have to be yourself the owner or have a partner, and both of you are involved in decision making and committed to doing that. Anyways, here's one of our clients speaking to us. His name, I'll just say his name's Kevin. He's in New Jersey. He's not in New Jersey. We'll want to keep him a little bit confidential, but here's the text message I just got. Hey, Dom, we just did our first big payroll today. More than I used to gross per month not too long ago. We've really transformed ourselves with your team's help. Dom, appreciate it very much. And he coaches with Lee. So that tells you what we're doing with the people that we choose to serve. We stand beside you. We show you the path. We show you the tools. We show you the traps and the pitfalls. And we show you the little slingshots, how you get ahead, bigger and bigger steps every time. So that's kind of cool. I want to welcome a bunch of people into Contractor Strategy Group, which some of you don't know about, but we have a Facebook group. The Facebook group is closed. It's private. It's only for business owners of contracting and construction companies. And there's no selling allowed in there. As a matter of there's been a couple times that people have tried to sell stuff, and my cell phone lights up, and we get messages in the office, and then we go remind the person or politely exit the person. Because sometimes they sneak through. It just happens. Anyways, there's like 700 members in this thing, and the only thing we talk about is the business of the contracting business. You should join. It's called Contractor Strategy Group. So here's who we welcomed: Jake at Powerwood, Jason Ulsrud, Rob Long, Josh DeVries, Doug Vorndren, Nick Alberta, Pat Clough, Penny Hala Ostad, Dylan, Chris. Is that Chris? Chris, how are you, bud? Chris is in there. A kitchen renovation company, another cabinet company. I'm not going to say their names here. Sawwood, which is, that seems like somebody's code name. Frank, Steven, Nestor, Randy, Steven, Aquila, Travis, Ben. We've got Michael, Ramon, James, Ron, Victor, Nicholas. We have a lot of people join, and Kiati Customs. So listen, there are a lot of people joining this group. And I got to tell you, I know there's other Facebook groups that waste a lot of time. We don't really waste a lot of time. There's not a ton of posts in here, but when there is, it's about pricing. It's about dealing with a customer. It's about the business of the contracting business. So you're not going to be inundated with a bunch of messages. I don't think that's the intent of this group at all. The intent here is when you've got a big, hairy, audacious question, who else do you ask? Well, you ask a group of business owners, and this is that place. So that's kind of cool. Hey, today we're going to solve a common problem. Now, the common problem that I want to simplify and solve with you is the I'm stuck as a business owner problem. Now, let me tell you, this presented itself to me actually just yesterday. So one of my coaching clients has a very successful home renovation company, accolades within the city, super well known, lots of referral business. So they do great work, and then people refer their friends. But not only that, but they also have very active local marketing. They've got 3 designers working for them full time, bringing in new deals. And they have a tempo. We call it a 3 and 3 tempo. They start 3 jobs a month and they end 3 jobs. That's the tempo they're at. Some of you are bigger than that. Some of you are a little less than that, whatever. But you get a sense of the kind of home reno, kitchen and bath reno company they are. Very, uh, it's a white glove service for people. It's a really nice, well-run renovations company. We've been coaching together for quite a while. But the business owner and I have a side conversation just this week. And he says, Dom, I'm kind of like, the company's moving forward and I see where everybody's going. And, together we're guiding to the direction he wants, but he feels like he's a bit stuck. So we've accomplished a lot of the things he set out as his original vision. Imagine that. His original plan has kind of come to life. And so in a private conversation, he's like, hey, Rubino, we're kind of there. Like, all the things that I said were my crazy goals, lifetime goals, we're kind of there. There's some things we haven't accomplished. There's some things we overshot. Those are overshot by we overdid them, which is great. But he's like, well, what do I even want that's more? How do I open up my mind, see where this is going, to what's next? And so the tool that I gave him is one that some of you have ignored. And I need you to get this one. It's called the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner. Now, we talked about this at the beginning of the year, and it's a fantastic planner. It's really a tool that you use on your own. He actually just sent me a text picture of himself working on the plan, having a cup of coffee. And you guys should know by now, if you send me that picture, I buy your coffee. So we already sent him a $5 Amazon gift card. So obviously I can't go to the coffee shop with you. So what we do is you take a selfie of yourself working on the plan, and then you send it to me. And then I send you the $5, but I send it on Amazon, but you get what I'm trying to do there. I'm being as honest or genuine as I can. I want to buy you that coffee. You guys hear me say that here all the time. I can't wait until the day we actually have a coffee or a glass of wine. I'm not buying you a glass of wine, but a coffee I will. So I send you $5 on Amazon. So kind of an offset there. Anyways, he sent me that picture, so it reminded me he was working on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner. And it's an interesting way of taking your mind and creating a series of boxes in your brain. And inside those boxes, what's in there, but now I'm going to show you how to shuffle them, kind of like a Rubik's Cube, how to shuffle them and how to unshuffle it again so that you get the next set of actions, the next vision for yourself. So if you find yourself at a place where you're like, Dom, I want to grow, but I'm not sure what I want to grow to. We're making okay money. I'd like to make better money, but what would I do with more money? I think I'm okay with time, but what would I do if time was better? If you're fuzzy, if you're uncertain, then this is a good tool for you. So it's called the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner. And you just text me. This is how you do these things, right? Just send me a message, 315-903-7853, and just say Healthy, Wealthy, Wise. And then I know to shoot that back off to you. It is a total of 5 pages if you include the cover page and the instruction page. We're not talking about a massive document. But the middle page, which is the real meat and potatoes, is laid out to help you sift and sort your mind, the mind that built this business from where it was when it started, which was probably zero. It was an idea in your head. You probably stormed off your old boss's job site saying, I'm going to go do this better. And here we are X number of years later. And you're looking around going, all right, what's next? Bring it on. That's what this is for. That's why you listen to this show, right? So it's called the Contractor's Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Planner. What it does is show you what you want. And the important thing is, you might already know what you want, but having it written down and having it to refer back to is the power. When I first started in business coaching, which was 24 years ago, right? I started in the year 2000 as a professional business coach. Now, I'd been coaching before at Sprint, corporate. My job, I worked with a lot of low voltage electricians that were subcontractors to Sprint, blah, blah, blah. But I learned in corporate, and then I went out on my own. And the thing that always got me was how people knew they wanted to grow the business, but felt stuck at the same time. Stuck because they didn't know what to do next. And simple tools like this help you sift and sort those priorities. It really comes down to your priorities, which is why you might get frustrated when you say, hey, Dom, what does a business coach really do? Oh, it's a great question. And I always come back with the same answer, which has got to be frustrating, because the answer is, it depends. Because it depends. It depends on so many things. Are you a single owner business, or do you have a partner? Is it a family business? Are you in business, with your wife, but you're in the middle of a separation. Yeah, I've seen that. Like, what's going on in the business? Are you you're running a business, but your dad is your foreman and it's not really working out? All of those, that's just one level of question to start to sift and sort and separate us, right? Sometimes I think what I do would make a great TV show, and other times I think it would be a very boring TV show. But anyways, that's the contractor's healthy, wealthy, and wise planner. What you get at the end of it, here, let me read you. There's an example right in the document. If we look at the top box, we challenge you to define your life if healthy and personal. So if you were personally healthy, what would that look like to you? Ask yourself, what would good look like for me if I was personally healthy? And then just answer honestly. You're speaking to yourself, but having it in writing means you can always refer back to it. And you always have a point of focus. You have a true north on your compass, and you can't get lost. It's like having blueprints with elevations to know what you're building. It's the same thing, right? So here's some examples that are in the exercise, right? So in the example, we laid out what would it look like for me if I was personally healthy. So this sample person said, I would walk the dog daily for an hour. I would drink more water. I would hire a personal trainer. I would take Friday afternoons off. So none of those sound impossible or difficult, but they start to focus you on the actions. Think about this for a second, this visual. Summertime's coming. If you go stand out in the full sun for an hour, you might get a little bit of color, depending on where you live. Maybe you get a little twinge of color, but you're not really in any danger, right? But imagine if you went outside and while you were standing there with your shirt off, just proudly showing the belly you've been working on for the last 45 years to the sun, but you also in your right hand held a magnifying glass and you aimed it at your left forearm, you would burn a hole in your forearm within seconds while the rest of your body barely got a sunburn. And the reason is the focused energy that the magnifying glass gives you. So these kind of tools focus your energy so that you can pull the power out that you need. See what I mean there? So I want you to have this. You work on it on your own pace. Again, if you want me to pay for your coffee, just send me a picture. Same number for everything. 315-903-7853. Now, a little, what do we call it? A PSA, public service announcement. The other day, I got hacked, and I want to apologize. Feels like I've been doing a lot of apologizing lately, but all the apologies, it turns out, are linked. On top of that, there was a separate thing that was happening. I needed to rebrand the company. So we used to have the name 10X Built, 10X BLT, because we were going to 10 times your building company. But it didn't really sit right. It didn't really ring right. Lee didn't like the colors. There was a whole bunch of stuff. And so sat back and thought, hey, who is our audience? Who do we serve? And are we serving them properly with 10X Built? I didn't think we did. And so instead, when I look at our growth trajectory, when I look at the things that we're going to be adding as value items for this community going forward, it really started to show us that we're building wealth for contractors. And so I decided to change the name to Contractor Wealth Systems. You're going to see CWS, Contractor Wealth Systems, showing up in a number of places. And you've already seen hints of that because I bring in mergers and acquisitions experts. I bring in financial experts. We bring in people that are talking about not the software they're selling, but how to implement the software and get over internal resistance in your company. I'm trying to show you how to build wealth systems in your business. And so it seems like that's the right way to go. So that happened independently, but then I let go of a subcontractor, I should say. That subcontractor was a marketing agency. And together we'd come up with this name 10X Built. It was kind of their idea. And I was open to it because I have two brands, two umbrellas that you know me under. One of them is Profit Tool Belt. That's, if you're looking at the YouTube video, that's the hat I'm wearing here. And there it is. I'll wear it like a skater kid, I guess. That's Profit Tool Belt. You're listening to that podcast right now. But what you may not know is I have another podcast, and it's called Cabinet Maker Profit System. And that's specifically for cabinet makers, architectural mill workers, people in the cabinetry industry and furniture. And you might laugh and you're like, how the heck do those two things line up? Well, they do, because this is about the business of the contracting business, but they don't in some other ways, which are obvious to all of us. And so I needed a unifying brand. So when the marketing company suggested 10X Built, we had conversations like, yeah, let's do that. Unifying brand, right? At the same time, the apologies that you've heard me make in the last couple of weeks here about not, if you sent me a text message and nobody responded, it was somebody on their team, that the subcontractor's team, who wasn't responding. And so I got fed up. I'm like, guys, we make a promise to the audience. That's you listening right now. I make a promise. The promise is attached to my name, Dominic Rubino. That name was given to me by my parents. I got to hold it high. And we're not responding to people, and just excuses. And then there were other things happening and excuses. And so just like you, if you've got a subcontractor who's not producing, who's not leaning in when you ask him to lean in, you'd ask him to leave, lean out. And so I did. Anyways, they did a very immature thing, crazy, and they sent an email to all of you, like a couple of thousand people, like a couple of thousand people, because lots of people listen to the show and they've had the downloads, and somehow we have people's email, right? And so they very kindly sent a very immature email out, and so I apologize for that too. I'll wear that. Because you're going to say, well, Dom, how'd they get it? Well, they got it by using an admin password that, I don't know if you have administration passwords set up in your company where you need to test a software, or you want to send an email to a test account to make sure it works before you send it out. One of those. Anyways, they found that and they used it and they sent it to everybody, which was a very, well, we don't cuss or curse on the show, so I'm not going to start today, but it was not a nice thing to do. And so I then sent out an email saying, hey guys, we got hacked. It wasn't really hacking. It was more of social engineering. They used existing knowledge to do that. But all that did was underscore the fact that I know who I am. I know who we are. They so kindly threatened Lee Miller and myself and said, we're gonna ruin your reputation in the market. And I said, yeah, go for it. Go for it. Do what you need to. Because I don't think you can ruin my reputation in the market. I'm just going to keep being Dom, and Lee's going to keep being Lee, and every coach and person on our team is going to keep being who we are. And people are going to see through that. And that's actually, it happened in droves, because as soon as the email went out, my phone lit up and people are like, Dom, was this you? Hey, Dom, did you see this? And it's nice. So thank you to all of you who did that. I very much appreciate it. But I figured that was what's going to happen, because I know who we are as a community. We don't call ourselves a community, but we're all here for the same reason. We are contractors who want to be business people. And that's kind of a fine filter for us to go through. Anyways, again, I apologize to you guys. I'm sorry I'm apologizing so much, but I also don't want to leave it hanging without any comment. If you do have a question, anything at all, find a way to get in touch with me. You guys know how to text me. I put it right there in the internet, 315-903-7853. I'd say, Dom, we got to talk. And you know what we'll do? We'll talk. That is how it works. And I appreciate you voicing your opinions, your questions, whatever it is. If you got to talk to me, let's talk. If you want the download, get the download, man. if you want the download and you never want to talk to me, that's okay. Tens of thousands of people have decided the same thing. It's okay. It's okay. My job is to throw enough value at the world as hard and fast as I can that I'm happy with the overspray. That's how I see things. I want to say that again. My job, the way I see my role in this world, my role is to throw as much value at the world as hard and as fast as I can so that I'm happy personally with just the overspray. What kind of onus does that put on me to add value? And I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it. I'm proud to do it. Anyways, let's leave it at that. Tonight, I'm having a coffee with one of you listeners. Not only that, but I'm sponsoring his dove hunt in Argentina that he got through the Dallas Safari Club. He contacted me about it. We did a little sponsorship thing. Hopefully, we're able to put a video together from that. So that's kind of cool. But he and I are meeting tonight, just like I said, for a cup of coffee over a table face to face. I couldn't be happier. So you're going to get, hopefully, if all the videos work out and if they get any doves, it's you'll get to see them later. So I'll tell you what, we went from the lows of sort of that social engineering hack all the way to having a coffee tonight with one of the audience members who we sponsored. Lee and I sponsored to go do a dove hunt in Argentina. I couldn't be happier. Anyways, listen, I'm very proud to host this podcast, and I can't wait for the day you and I sitting across the table having a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. Until then, talk to you next time. Bye bye.